This week on Standing with Turtle. Where we live out here, if somebody has a bandana, I don't care what color it is, it's probably a farmer's and it's probably for sweat. But out there, that's not the case. For sure, that guy reacted strongly, and he made quite a bit of noise at first. And I mean, I thought we were about to go to war. Hello, and welcome back to Foster Care, an unparalleled journey. This week is episode 4 of Standing with Turtle. We're going to get into some interesting topics this week, so I hope you guys enjoy it. If you haven't already heard the first 3 episodes, be sure to go back and download those and listen to those first so you understand the whole story.
And then one evening, I've left Children's Hospital. I've left our daughter. I've picked up our other children, and we're grocery shopping. We leave. We're heading home so I can try to spend some family time because I hadn't been home in probably 3 or 4 days. So I'm coming home. I'm going to cook dinner for the kids. I've got all the kids in the car, and we're flying down the highway, and one of our children says, Mommy. What, baby, what? What you need? The baby's shaking. Really bad, Mommy. The baby's shaking. And I look in my rearview mirror, and here's G in his car seat in a full-blown seizure as I'm flying down the highway. Talk about scare you to death. So scary. Stop on the shoulder of the highway, call 911. I've got strangers stopping. Some wonderful, wonderful people stopped to try to help me with the other kids. One woman actually offered to drive all of the kids to the hospital so I could ride in the ambulance with G, which one of our older sons ended up going with him. But at that point, we didn't know what was wrong. Was it drugs? Was there some underlying condition? It was terrifying. Was it something that was contagious? Because here we had another child, our other daughter is in children's in isolation, and I just spent the day with her. Have I put her in contact with something that was contagious? My head was all over the place, and it was scary, and I'm worried about this little boy. And come to find out, there's a name for it. It's febrile seizures. Not a big ordeal. Scary. Very scary to see your child have a seizure. Will scare the snot out of you if you've never witnessed a seizure before. He has since grown out of it. The doctors assured us that he would, but he did end up having a handful of seizures. And it has to do with body temperature rapidly changing, sick, cutting teeth, all the things that babies and toddlers do. Yeah,
because he was cutting teeth and had a fever at that point, didn't he?
And that's what it ended up being, is his temperature rose too quickly. Like I said, he had a handful of them, but he did outgrow them. We have not had a seizure in a few years now. Doctor said, usually children grow out of it by the time they're 4. And we have completely grown out of the seizure, so that has not been a lasting issue. So that was really awesome. Yeah. Scary at the time. In the big scheme of things and what was going on in our world, it was just one more thing. One more big scary thing. But we did it. We faced it. We did it. We came out on the other side.
That was one of the things that we thought might be one of the scary side effects of drugs. Turns out it wasn't related to that at all. Another thing that he dealt with a lot, because he was so distrustful of people, because he had been, living that lifestyle on the streets and what he'd experienced and seen and what he had modeled for him, G was what I would call the cutest little thug you'll ever meet. This little boy had the ability to stare you down and say F you with his eyes. I've never met any kid, or adult for that matter, who's been able to do it as effectively as he is. He could stand there and people would, because he was a genuinely cute little guy, right? And so people would walk up and, oh, he's so cute, and they'd try and talk to him, and he would stare you down, and while staring, rotate his body until he could completely turn away from you and fold his arms across his chest and give you his back as if to say, you're not even worth looking at. He was the coldest little thug at 1.5 years old that I've ever met. But I think a lot of that just came from where he came from. It came from the environment that he was exposed to at such a young age. And I have a picture floating around here somewhere that we were at at one of our other kids' sporting events one day, and the lighting was bright, and he was dressed up just as a cute little boy in a, set of little boy overalls and t-shirt. And I had a camera. I was there to take some pictures of the kids' game, and Geese saw me with a camera, and I went to point at him, and I don't know if you can possibly say "screw you, buddy" any louder or clearer than he did with his eyes. And I managed to capture that moment on a picture. And I love that picture because it reminds me so much of who he was and how difficult of a place he was in at that point.
But it's one of the best pictures ever.
It is.
Everybody loves that picture.
He's adorable.
Yeah, it captured his personality just perfectly.
It really did. That was another thing we had to deal with, was his ability to trust other people. And that took a lot of time. He was continued in care for a while after that, and we just kept going back and forth to court, all the way down there, almost 2 hours down the road, all the way back. And every 3 months we'd have a court case. Well, we had to go down, and they'd do a hearing to I forget what they call those hearings, but basically it's kind of an update so that the court can stay abreast of what's going on. They know how he's doing. Mom has her opportunity to talk about how she's doing. And the children's division, presents any evidence they have to say, yeah, she's doing great, or no, we have no positive results, or, whether there was negative drug test, positive drug test, all those sorts of things. So we would have a court case every 3 months or so. And we just kept living life. And that was one of the things that we watched him go through in that time, because we're so concerned about all the different pieces of his life for such a little guy. And when he got to the point where he started to trust some other people, that was a huge milestone for us. And I want to say he was in our house for at least a year before he would willingly come over to me for anything.
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, part of what helped that, though, is I had to be out of the house so much that he had to start relying on you. Being at the hospital off and on all the time, he had to start relying on you. And you became that other safe place.
Yeah.
You and the other kids. He really interacted really well with our youngest daughter.
Yeah.
Him and Nani were pretty close at that point when he was little.
Yeah, and it didn't hurt that her maternal instinct kicked in when she was about 2, I think.
Nicknamed Nani, a.k.a. Little Mama.
Yeah, she was Little Mama for sure. But, that really, I think, helped him kind of pull some of us, because at that point, we had all 6 kids at that point, right, in the house? And so he had to live in a house, there was 6 kids and 2 adults, and so it was a lot for him, I'm sure. But he had a lot of opportunity to interact with other people, to learn that not everybody you meet is a dealer, a John, a pimp, or a banger. Like, the people around you are actually safe people.
Yeah, and I mean, we had a pretty crazy household. That many kids, everything going on in our lives. Because I think one thing that we haven't mentioned is, along with all those pieces of Arissa being sick, taking Twitchy, everything that Turtle was going through, we had 2 other children that we had adopted. We had the 2 older boys, and then we also had your father.
Yeah.
And Dad was sick. And Dad was really sick, and so we tried to help there as much as we could. And we were burning the candle at both ends.
Hell, we were exhausted, fire in the middle
all the time. There wasn't a day that was just relax. Every day was go, 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 go.
It was we were kind of in a place of like firemen, right? We weren't living life intentionally at that point so much as we were putting out fires.
Yeah, we were just trying to stay afloat.
It was a matter of crisis management more so than it was living life to the fullest. There was no living life to the fullest at that point. It was a tough time for sure. I look back on that time, and I'm surprised we survived it, to be honest. It was a tough, hard moment. And all that while we're going through that stress and trying
2 infants, withdrawals, diapers,
Yeah.
no sleep.
And on top of all that, then he starts getting ear infections like crazy.
Yeah.
And we ended up having to take him down and back down to St. Louis to the hospital down there, one of the children's hospitals down there, and have tube surgery done at a pretty young age.
Yeah.
That was a challenge in and of itself because he still did not. I mean, even though I could be around him without problems at that point, he wanted nothing to do with me if Amanda was around. And knowing that they're going to have to put him in that little infant bed and take him back there to go have the surgery done. It's not a major surgery. He's not the first kids we've had have tubes put in, but it's the first surgery he knows about, so it was kind of a big deal. So Amanda had brought his baby blanket with him. It's the only thing he has that came with him from his mom's house. That's the only real connection he has of any physical thing back to his biological family.
His wub wub.
Yep. And every little boy and little girl has a wub wub or a safety blanket or a something, what they call it, but a blanket they drag around, kind of like Linus. The biggest difference between Linus's blanket and G's wub wub is that Linus drug around a dirty little rag for all we could tell and didn't care. G, on the other hand, he had a super special blanket that he carried with him. His grandma had made him. It was kind of like a little baby-sized quilt. And she'd done an amazing job with it. Just did a beautiful job. The trouble is that if you know anything about the lifestyle that he came out of, the fabric she used to make that wub wub, I assume had been given to her by G's mom or dad, and it was actually a gang flag. And so when we took him in to have his tubes done, as we walked out to the car,
Of course, we're going to bring his safety net.
Yep, he had to have that. I mean, if he's going to leave Amanda to go get something done, he's going to have his wub wub with him, gosh dog it.
But we walk out, you go to get the car to bring the car up, and I'm walking out holding G, got him wrapped up in his wub wub. He's okay, he's chill, he's got me clinging on for dear life.
And he was still coming down off the medications.
Yeah. And I'm walking out, and here comes this guy, and he had a couple kids in tow with him, little ones, toddlers, 3 and 4 years old. But that blanket caught his eye.
Yes,
He was
it did.
very, very interested in that blanket, where it came from, how I come about getting it, how he could get himself one. And at that moment, it was like a light bulb went off in my head, like, I know what this blanket stands for, and I did not even contemplate bringing it across the river into the city. Didn't even think about what issues that could cause.
Oh, yeah, because we live, like I said, we live in a rural area.
If you go to the wrong neighborhood, flying the wrong colors, you're in big trouble.
Yeah. Where we live out here, if somebody has a bandana, I don't care what color it is, it's probably a farmer's, and it's probably for sweat. But out there, that's not the case. For sure, that guy reacted strongly, and he made quite a bit of noise at first. And I mean, I thought we were about to go to war. That was kind of the reaction that I thought I was seeing, and I was starting to get into that headspace real fast when he asked Amanda, "Where'd you get that? I want one like it." And I thought, oh God, thank you.
Yeah. It
Thank
ended up
you.
not being a big deal, but it could have been.
Absolutely.
And we packed up so fast after that.
And I'm pretty certain we had a conversation. If that wub wub goes within about 30 miles of St. Louis again, I'm going to burn the darn thing. Because I'm not willing to put up with that. I'm not going to die over wub wub. I know he loves it, but I'm not dying for wub wub.
Don't worry, folks. He still has wub wub.
He does.
It's been repaired a few times, several holes, but wub wub's still around.
Thanks for showing up and listening this week, guys. We hope to see you back next week to hear the next installment of Turtle Story. If you haven't already, make sure you go by the website and check out jasonmpalmer.com. We've got the blog over there, as well as some podcast information and some other great things. We've We've also got the Facebook page, so check us out there as well. And we will see you next week. Next week on Standing with Turtle.
Because you don't expect that from a toddler. You don't expect them to have so many walls and so much distrust for the world at 2 years old. And you expect that from an adult.
Yeah.
You expect, some of that maybe from a teenager even, but not a toddler.
As always, if you know of any child in danger of being neglected or abused, call your local authorities, the police department, or 1-800-4-CHILD. That's 1-800, the number 4, a child.